Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let me take this off. I meant to take my name off here. All right. So here we are with a Democrat and a Republican walking to a bar. I am your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Vanier.
I am your Republican host, Sean Hartman.
Yes, and cheers.
At Millennial Brewing.
Yeah,
our new
Millennial.
home, who has been very kind to us. It's been a busy 2 weeks. We had a Valentine's Day. Tomorrow is President's Day. We also had the Super Bowl. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did watch the Super Bowl.
What were your thoughts?
My thoughts were that the Lions weren't in it.
I know the Lions are definitely. Well, my Dolphins are never in it too. So you and me both can wallow in our sorrow on the having some of the worst teams in the league. Even though I think Dolphins have been doing pretty good.
And Lions, this was supposed to be our year, so that was like what I was thinking. I usually enjoy like seeing what the commercials were.
Yeah.
Most of them were pretty lame this year.
I didn't really feel like any of them jumped out to me.
Except for the seal thing.
The seal one was really weird.
Weird.
I like the one with Shane Gillis and I don't know who the other guy was. There was a Bud Light commercial, one of the beer's commercials.
Oh.
And then there was one on breast cancer, just a bunch of boobs in our face.
Oh yeah, the boobs one, right?
Yeah, the boobs
Okay,
one.
great.
Can't complain about the boobs one. But I thought, I tend to root for whoever's the underdog, and I felt the Eagles were the underdog in this. And boy, did they clobber the Saints! It was very bad. Chiefs, you're right, Chiefs.
It was in New Orleans, so that's right.
Yeah, you're right.
I know, no, it was it was kind of like a boring game.
For Taylor's boyfriend.
Yeah, some people were saying that it was because Mahomes and a couple of the players went and said hi to Trump, and so.
Well, apparently, I guess Trump got cheered and Taylor got booed.
No, Trump got booed too, and Taylor got booed.
Everyone got
whatever. It was stupid. But then everybody, of course, was very upset. Not everybody, but a lot of people are very upset with the Kendrick Lamar halftime show.
Nope. Okay, let me say something. I have not heard Kendrick Lamar's diss track before that day. All right, and my sister showed it to me before, and so I knew what it was, and I was just like amazed, and so that was really my favorite part of the night. I think they did that very, very well, and I am now a fan of Kendrick Lamar. I could see. Like I don't pay attention to like the hip hop culture and all that type of stuff. I get tidbits because of social media, but it's like I don't really care about that drama. It's like okay, they're beefing. And then my sister shows me, and he's like over here calling him a freaking pedophile on a colonizer. I'm like, this is dirty. And the fact that, he wins a Grammy over it and then performs it during the Super Bowl, I mean, like, it's clobber.
I enjoyed the multi-layered messages.
Oh, yeah, very symbolic.
With Serena Williams crib walking. Just a nice little...
I didn't realize it was Serena until after, and I didn't know that.
I thought it was. I was like, is that Serena Williams?
And I didn't know that they dated. So her and Drake dated, so that was the whole point.
And then he was trashing her, and the whole crib walk was because she did that in Wimbledon, and then people were calling her ghetto and stuff like that. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but a lot of people have also said like that there's nobody ever likes the halftime show. Like there's always a lot of complaints.
Yeah,
about the halftime
everyone
show.
does.
Again, like
I think you're going to find complaints for everyone. I think that most of the complaints that I got were funny were coming from a lot of people on my side. Who are like, I don't understand him. I don't know what he's saying. And like, yeah, that's why I had to watch the video with the lyrics first.
The mumble rap stuff. Yeah,
it's too fast for some people. I get it, but still, it's not about just the lyrics. It's about the beat.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
And the performance of the dancers and all
that was very
thing.
cool.
With everything, even with the red, white, and blue flag, everything like that. So
yes, so there was a lot to be said on that. So yeah, that was the Super Bowl. So that's happened.
Yeah. And you do anything good for Valentine's Day, you and your husband? Oh wow.
No, my husband got me flowers and a lovely card, and then I made like chocolate covered strawberries with the kids.
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, no, like.
For me, it's Singles Appreciation Day, so I just worked and I texted my other single friend, hey, happy Singles Appreciation Day. So all the single friends that I have, we're all celebrating that.
Oh,
not doing anything.
Fantastic.
Very fun, very fun. So last time we were here, we were talking about the dick measuring contest up in Tallahassee.
Yes, and it goes
on. Well, the dicks have been measured. I feel like Ron DeSantis is bigger.
You think he won?
I think he won. I think he came out on top on this one. I think basically
I've heard he's a bottom, but that's a different story.
that's rumors that we will not, we have not verified. But the thing is with that one is Ron DeSantis basically got what he wanted off of this new legislation, and the fact of the matter is he turned it against the legislators and turned public opinion against them very, very quick. He defined the narrative very early on. The legislators who are trying to defend their bill were not able to properly defend it. They were on the defense from the get-go. And then eventually they just had to give up because at least the Republican base was not in favor of it.
What was the major differences in
I think that Ron DeSantis is a lot tougher. So one of the highlights, of course, that we talked about, the Commissioner of Agriculture has been moved back to the governor. I don't think that was as big of an issue as there were certain areas in terms of the punishment side that the legislative bill did not have that the governor's bill did. Now, I will say, even though I agree with having a strict bill, I think that the punishments that deal with maximal sentencing, where it says you have to have a mandatory maximum sentence or a mandatory death penalty, I don't approve of those, both because legal cases and criminal cases need to be judged on a case-by-case basis, and I do think there's a constitutional question on whether or not it's a violation of due process or a cruel and unusual punishment for the sake of the death penalty. So those two things I don't really like, but altogether, I did want a tougher bill. I think a lot of Republicans did, but this is Ron DeSantis who I think won this one and really won over and really, pulled one over the legislature. And we'll see if there's going to be a downward effect in terms of Republicans primarying incumbents, or if Ron DeSantis is going to keep his promise and fund those primary opponents. And we'll see if this is going to lead into something, unfortunately, a potential civil war within the Republican Party, or if we're just going to let it go and remain unified and no one's going to run against anyone. So that's the 2026 question. But the legislators now basically are going to have to come back to their districts, to the Republicans that they serve, and defend themselves and get back into everyone's good graces. And hopefully the Republican base can forgive them.
So from a Democratic perspective, the whole thing was a big piling, steeping heap of trash. And it deputized all across the state, every authority to facilitate deportations and to basically do the job of ICE.
Yeah.
And there's apparently some budget that it came along with it, but I do not think that it's going to be enough to make up for the amount of money that local jurisdictions, we're talking about police departments, port authorities, and sheriff's office are going to take the time and effort they're going to take doing this job that ostensibly is supposed to be a federal government job. Yeah. Additionally, I do not like the idea that it's deputizing this very, very fraught idea around deportation and that there's a necessity for mass deportation. We have the Laken Riley Act in effect where anything that is $100 or more is going to facilitate that deportation process, and all they have to do is simply admit it or be arrested for it. They do not have to have due process for it. So we're actually talking about local government agents being a part of a non-constitutional process that I'm very worried about that can target people in our community, people that have lived here forever. We've already seen a problematic implementation of the deportation strategy around the country, and so we're talking about expanding that over a dick measuring contest in the state of Florida, and I have a lot of problems with that.
I can understand that for sure. These issues shouldn't be political. Border security and taken care of, especially those who are here illegally, who are actually committing crimes. I think both of us can agree that we need to be able to report those. And I also agree, and I've said this before, this really shouldn't be local government's job to enforce it. They should cooperate and provide information with ICE if they're requested. And I think that's where I understand a lot of legislation getting at. But at the same time, I don't want my local law enforcement to be involved in that deportation process. We have ICE for a reason. That's a federal job. I want our local Cape Coral police and our local Lee County sheriffs working on local crimes that citizens and non-citizens would be committing and keep us safe, broadly speaking, and leave the ICE deportations to the ICE deportation. So on that, I agree with you. But I think, again, border security and making sure that our communities are safe, that shouldn't be a controversial issue. I think what we're disagreeing on is the how and the level of which.
And this for me, especially from the Democratic perspective, is very much an issue that's been trumped up.
Yep.
Right. There's not a lot of demonstrative facts around anything related to crime
It becomes-
and immigrants and things like that. Actually, it's quite like the opposite. People who are migrants are more likely to be victims of crime because they're less likely to go to authorities. And many of them are victims of human trafficking and sex trafficking and things like that. So there's a lot of complexity to this issue that I feel like has been oversimplified to scare people into a position.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I
And,
think there is a lot of fear mongering on this. I don't, not to diminish the actual incidences like Lakeland Riley or others.
Sure.
But at the same time, you're right. I do think that they take, the right-wing media will take some of these incidences and blow them and magnify them way beyond its actual scope. So I 100% agree that this immigration is a much more nuanced issue, and no one wants to talk about the nuances. It's too oversimplified. I 100% agree.
And I say that the other things that are worrying me about the bill and the language of this bill, like you, I said, I am also not a fan of the mandatory maximums just because those have a tendency, again, to cause a lot of extra costs in the state because of the appeals process and that they've already been determined to in places they're unconstitutional. And so we have this additional constitutional issue with this and additional cost. So it's going to cost more to prosecute people. It's going to cost more in the appeals process as well as to house people, right? And even if we're deporting folks, this is still, there's still like at least a remnant of a legal process that people are following. The other thing that I'm also concerned about is this bill being used to go after, harass, and remove elected sheriffs or locally appointed officers if they are not complying in the way that Governor DeSantis wants them to.
Well, if they're not complying with the law, and absolutely, if you're not obeying the law as an elected official, you should be removed. Same with, for
that's
example,
not how it works.
It should.
It's
absolutely
democracy,
should.
so the governor doesn't get to choose who is
Absolutely,
following
the
what.
governor does have the constitution.
They do not.
Yes, they do.
They
the
do
government
not.
does have the
The
ability to
governor do
remove
not.
people.
Yeah, but not, if you are looking at something that's unconstitutional, you actually have a duty as an elected official to not follow that when you swear an oath to the Constitution.
Yeah, that's fine, but
So
then that
DeSantis
needs to
has overstepped
constitution.
those bounds on removing officials across the state more so than any other governor in the state's history.
But he does have the constitutional authority to do
He has
that.
the constitutional authority to do that because it says that he can remove people, but does he have the actual grounds to do it? Is that okay? No, the answer in my court is no.
I think some of them,
he
you're
does not
right.
have the ability. It should not have the ability to remove elected officials.
I agree with you that there have been some elected officials who I don't think deserve it. But if you're a law enforcement officer and you're not enforcing the law,
Andrew Warren, there was a Broward County commissioner,
the Broward County school board member,
who had a felony on his record and blah blah blah. By the way, didn't seem to affect Byron being elected, but anyway.
But that's that's actually federal, so the state wouldn't be able to regulate
the state can determine who gets on the ballot.
Anyway, the point is, if you're a law enforcement officer and you're not enforcing the law, then you should be removed, plain and simple. Now, if there is a constitutional question on the law, then it needs to be challenged in the courts. And
Correct.
the Constitution
it needs to go through the courts, not through a single authority of the governor. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And if it finds that they're not breaking the law, then the governor shouldn't have the authority to remove them in that case. But again,
if it goes through the courts and they broke the law, then the governor can remove them. But that's not happening. The governor's removing people that he don't like. And that's why I'm worried that there is a chance for executive overreach at the state level through that law.
That's there's always chances of state overreach in a lot of things. I will agree with that. But again, I want to reiterate, if you're in law enforcement and you're not enforcing the law, you should be removed. And that includes constitutional law. But if you're not enforcing the law, then you should be removed. And that shouldn't be a controversial statement, but I guess it is. Anyway.
Well, we're talking about, are you making time? What about the budget? This is not, it's not.
Well, that's a different story. If you're not able to do it because of the budget restraints, then no, I don't think you should be removed in that regard. I think that's ridiculous.
We'll see.
So.
We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, but if you're making the voluntary decision, I'm not going to enforce this law, then no. That's what in the case of Andrew Warren. Andrew Warren was saying, I'm not going to enforce this abortion law. That was why he was removed. You'd have to you have to follow the law. That's just how it is. In the case of, we'll use our local sheriff, Carmine Marcino. If it finds that even he gets charged by the grand jury, he can be removed. Patty Cummings down here in Cape Coral, she was charged with the crime and was removed. So that's just my view on it. If you're an elected official, you have to be following the law. That's plain and simple. All right.
Unless you don't. Hey, speaking of Carmine Marcino, guess who did not have a major showing in the Edison Light Parade last night?
Sheriff Marcino was absent. Interesting. That is a rarity.
Yes.
He never misses a chance to show his face.
Right.
Very rare.
He doesn't miss a PR opportunity. And what I had noticed the last 2 years, the Edison Light Parade really not only just had like Marcino, actually he was glad handing, shaking hands last year because it was an election year, but it half the parade was the LCSO and their paramilitary equipment. And I'm like, wow, it's kind of messed up right here.
Police born.
Most of that stuff was gone this year. I mean, you had your fire trucks, you had your Fort Myers PD, and that was it.
Well, I thought there was. I just see something on the sheriff's Instagram.
There was a few, but I'm saying, it was
it
here's our boat.
It wasn't.
Here's our this.
As extravagant.
No.
It's almost as if he's saying, "I'm spending your money wisely."
Yeah, it's almost
like now they're looking at my budget. I have to, be frugal and responsible.
Right. Yeah. It's like, how many boats do you really need? How many tanks do you need? Actually, that was my husband said last night. I was like, yeah, I didn't see as much. He's like, didn't he have a tank last year? I was like, something like that. Yeah.
The military operations that we need to handle with the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
I'm also very upset about that. But I did love the Edison Light Parade. It's a big
of course.
event.
I forgot it was happening. I've been wanting to go. I think I've won once or twice in younger years. It is a Lee County tradition. It is a part of our community. 70 years now? It's been decades.
Yeah.
Decades since they've been doing this. So it's just a major event.
Yeah. And my daughter was in the marching band for Fort Myers High School, so that was really fun. I always loved seeing the marching bands. And it was the first time that she was in the marching band in the Edison Light Parade. So I was very excited for her on that. And it's a wonderful event, and I will say there is one part of it that's a little bit weird to me though.
What?
I'm gonna drop this, you guys. Don't get mad, but the Royal Court of Edisonia. That shit is weird.
I did see something like that. I did see
it's like old school, debutante balls, southern rich people stuff.
I saw David Mullica's son.
Yes.
Was one of the princes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And from what I understand, because I literally asked at one point, I was like, how do you get involved in this? And there's you got to apply, and then your parents got to raise money. And I think that if I understand it correctly, the people who get to be the king and queen are the ones whose parents have raised a lot of money for the event. Which honestly is not that uncommon of a thing in other festivals. But it's also obviously very much puts this in a very limited kind of capacity kind of thing. And even though
now you have the rich kids competing against each other for king and queen.
Right.
And my daddy bought it and had Karen Lusman more and bought it for me more.
And I know that there's all these lead up stuff, and there's the cotillion and these balls and stuff. But it seems so incredibly elitist to me. In this other realm of reality compared to where most people live. And from what I understand, it was that component of it, and the fact that historically they did not allow Black children to participate in this was one of the main reasons why the Dunbar community and the former Safety Hill community created the Easter parade and have their own kind of children's pageant kind of thing. Is because of their former exclusion in that. So,
and of course, they're not excluded now.
No, they're not excluded now. It's more of a class warfare kind of thing.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, if you have rich Black people, I'm sure they can get their kids.
Sure, and but yeah. So I mean, for me, it's always I feel very torn about it. Let me put it like this, because it does look like it would be kind of fun, kind of cool. It's got this weird nostalgia about it.
Yeah.
But there's this other part of me going what is this thing?
I think it's clearly a good fundraising tool. I'm assuming it costs quite a bit of money to get all of this done, and you're raising even after. I'm assuming it's for the Ellison Port Estates if you're raising the money for it, right? So,
Well, no, it's not the Florida States. No. It's for, there is actually a whole committee
okay.
called like the Edison Light Parade Committee that organizes that event, organizes the parades, and then they partner with the other events around town, like the hymn singing thing, the Edison Estates Car Show, the science fair with the kids, and they help to coordinate those events, but it's really focused on the parade itself.
Okay. Interesting. I heard about that, but yeah, no, I would imagine it makes a lot of money and brings a lot of money in for the resources of the parade. So I think that's why it should definitely be kept. But I would like, if maybe.
I'm not even making commentary on whether we should keep it or not.
Yeah.
It always strikes me.
And definitely when you're saying that, I feel like you think about the Wiz Kids and those teenage dramas on ABC Family type of thing.
I mean, it's like Gone with the Wind kind of shit, honestly. And I remember asking this really older lady who lived in Fort Myers her whole life, she's in her 80s and stuff. I'm like, how, my kids were young at the time, so how do you get involved in this? Where's it's well, first of all, you have to be really well known and you have to get invited in. I'm like, wow, that's
very elitist, super elitist.
We gotta go and do events around town. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm not cool enough. I've not been invited yet. I don't know.
You're not rich enough.
I'm not.
Definitely
not rich enough.
They don't give it to just college professors. You have to have the.
Yeah, honestly, being in higher ed and being the Democratic opposition in Southwest Florida, not as lucrative as you may think.
Oh my God, no.
All right, good. So there's also been a lot of other crazy shit in Trump world.
Yeah, where do you want to start on
I don't know.
that?
Where do you want to start? I'm interested to see which one rose to the top for you. It's kind of top of mind.
There's two that are really on top of mind, both deal with foreign policy. And the first one is I wanted to make sure I watched it completely before I made any judgments because I was hearing about it on the news. And it was J.D. Vance in Europe at the Munich Security Conference. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
I did not watch the video, but I have heard some highlights.
So I don't think it was as bad as everyone makes it sound to me. I think when you really listen to what he says, he was talking mainly about issues of freedom of speech that you can see with both the European Union and the UK. But really, he was talking about defending democracy and democratic values. Yeah,
it wasn't defending Nazis?
No, it wasn't. No. He was talking about that people have been misinterpreting the fact that he's saying that, hey, you can't be afraid of your people he's supporting Nazis because.
Right, because the criticism was that Germany and other places were not allowing free speech from Nazis.
So from the alternative for Germany, which I don't think as people are making them out as a fully Nazi party, and I know they have a Nazi element.
Nazi juniors?
They're a more libertarian party than a Nazi party. Let's be
fair, libertarians are Nazis.
You know what? Okay, touche on that one. There is a secret fascist element of the libertarian movement that people don't realize. That
actually, what it really is the alt-right. There's a secret libertarian movement.
Well, it all comes from that guy, Hans Herbert Hoppe or whatever, who wrote this book about how monarchies are better for liberty than democracies. And so we have a lot of libertarians who want an authoritarian government that will leave.
There's a lot of people who are. I've been rolling around with this too. Is there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of messiness in democracy, and there's a lot of people who feel that authoritarians cut through the noise and they can make decisions fast. Now the problem is that historically authoritarians make decisions that are favorable to authoritarians and their cronies, and not anybody else.
And that's just a reduction of freedom. Yeah, exactly. Right. Authoritarian, no one can deny that authoritarian governments are efficient. Look at China. China is a very efficient government, but look at how free China is. All right, do you want to? I would rather live in a chaotic government that keeps me free than a totalitarian government that makes me a slave.
Well, and it's freedom of individuality.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
You're not a part of this collective homogenous law at the whims of the state,
Right.
like we have in like communist China.
Right.
But I disagree with you. You definitely watch the whole thing. I don't think it was as bad as everyone makes it sound. But it's also, you gotta go. God wins law, baby.
I was more less concerned about his criticism of the freedom of speech as I was him saying that he should be the president of Europe.
I didn't hear anything about that in that speech, but I don't know if it was somewhere else.
Yeah, a lot of people were talking about that. I made some posts about it, but yeah, basically that it was really just more expansionist rhetoric. And Elon Musk was like, yeah, let's make JD Vance the president of Europe.
Yeah, guys, I have to say this because it's starting to piss me off too. What the fuck happened to America first? Okay? We're over here trying to conquer Panama, Canada, Greenland, Gaza, Europe. Stop.
Mexico.
The whole point of Mexico now, Jesus Christ. The point is, America first and this nationalist movement within the Republican Party, the whole point, it was all dwelled into the anti-imperialism, the anti-war aspect.
Right.
What the fuck, guys? I'm from an America first standpoint, this is bullshit. So, sorry.
Well, you heard it here, folks.
Yeah,
so I'm like, and frankly, I agree. I'm not an isolationist, which is a big portion of the rhetoric around the American First Nationalist movement. However, I look at this and this is like Trump is a Russian asset and he's doing what the Soviet Union wants. He wants the Soviet Union. What the United Russian states of Vladimir Putin. That is actually what makes sense about Greenland, because Greenland, as the polar ice caps are melting, is going to become a major shipping lane from Russia. And it seems to me that that whole component of let's not intervene, let's focus at home is gone, because now
he's over here acting like William McKinley trying to plant his flag everywhere. It's pissing me off. I will say about Greenland though, I do see a strategic need not to own Greenland, but I would like to see a compact of free association like we have with Micronesia, or doing a dual compact of free association with us in Denmark. So these are some options that are on the table, because Greenland I do think is going to have a strategic element.
Why?
Over, because obviously the ice caps are melted. There's a resource and trade area over there.
But Russia's not it doesn't open up trade lanes that are important to us. Our number one trade partner is China, or is Canada. The second is China. So what the fuck do we care about goddamn Greenland?
I'm just saying it's an option is a compact of free association.
What I'm saying is it's fucking horseshit, and it's what Vladimir Putin wants.
I don't know why Vladimir Putin would want that, but okay.
Yes, absolutely, because it goes straight from fucking Moscow.
So, but again, Trump's only going to be in for another 4 years.
Hey, listen, he could do as much damage if he does as much damage in the first fucking month as he does in the latter fucking 3 years and change of his presidency, then Vladimir Putin's sitting pretty.
Well, that brings us to the second thing that I do want to talk about, which is the Russia-Ukraine deal.
Oh, yeah.
And the controversy around that. Obviously, there's questions on whether or not we're giving too much to Russia, and the fact that no one's bringing everyone to the table. There's separate negotiations going around. I have.
What's your understanding of the deal, by the way?
My understanding.
I haven't heard a deal.
No one's here. There is no deal yet.
There's no fucking deal.
There's nothing there yet. We did not get it solved on day one.
It's peace, according to Trump and Putin.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
With this, I see two situations with this.
And then Trump's saying that he wants all the minerals in exchange for peace.
No, he's wanting some sort of business deal with the minerals. So when Zelensky was actually on Meet the Press today, which I thought was a very good conversation and enlightening too. So there's a few things on the table. First off is where do you draw the lines, and who actually owns it. Both Zelensky has said that he's not going to recognize any annexation of Ukrainian lands.
Yep.
That his view, if they're going to be an exchange of territory, it's going to be like Taiwan. Eventually they're going to take it back. Was basically how he made it sound on the Meet the Press interview. Russia, of course, doesn't want Ukraine in NATO. Russia, of course, does not. Basically wants everything that they basically gain, and really, in order for any peace building work, Ukraine needs some sort of security concessions, security guarantees. Which the best way to do that would be to let them join NATO. Let's be real.
Who? Russia joined
No,
NATO?
Ukraine.
Okay.
No, Ukraine joined NATO. My view, for me, the deal that I think would work the best would be one in which Russia does get the annexed territories and gets to annex them, and Ukraine recognizes that, but then Ukraine gets elevated into NATO. Neither party which wants the other to happen. Ukraine won't give up that territory. Russia won't give up NATO. But the real thing is, you can't do anything with Ukraine. Ukraine won't do anything without any security guarantees. And the other part of it, and this is where I do generally agree with you, Russia cannot go unpunished for this. And that is my big concern with any deal coming in. We cannot reward someone for engaging in illegal territorial conquest. So at the bare minimum, there needs to be some reparations on Russia, and in order to, facilitate some sort of punishment, but there needs to be some sort of consequences for Russia's actions in their illegal war. But I do think we have to recognize the reality on the ground and come up with a deal that's actually realistic, and that might mean, unfortunately, some concessions from Ukraine. So that's my thoughts on it. We have
Russia,
a kid interruption.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me get this, and then I'll give you my thoughts on Russia, because I am very concerned about this. I don't think that it's like a real deal. I think it's just some bullshit.
That's the other part of it too. So we have to understand, both sides, or I would say Ukraine and the United States and Europe, not really Russia, but the goal is a lasting peace, so that Russia does not do this again. But, even Zelensky's worried that any deal would just be a ceasefire for Russia to regroup and start over. That's why Ukraine needs security guarantees. The easiest option would be a NATO ascension. But again, Russia will not come to the table for a NATO ascension.
Right, and Pete Hegseth has already said that that's off the table.
It's off the table because Russia won't come to the table if it's on the table.
Right.
So we have to get both of them at the table. And that's going to really be the hardest part, is getting them on something that they can both agree on, where they both lose. But I agree with you. I think we're both in agreement that Russia should not go unpunished. This is something that was an illegal territorial war. And I am deeply concerned that if we do this and Russia comes out with a win without any consequences, next is China. I'm telling you, Taiwan will be done if we give a deal to Russia.
I don't think it's that. I don't think China's going to necessarily. I don't think it's a domino or a slippery slope to China. What I think it is it's a domino effect to emboldening Russia for further expansionism into Europe. And actually, that is what European leaders are thinking, because they are worried about that. And they're starting to realize that the United States may not be a good partner and that NATO may not hold up. And that is incredibly dangerous for the United States and democracies all over the country.
Trump has definitely had effect in our ability to be reliable diplomatically in our foreign policy. I do think the one benefit that I hope comes of it is a stronger and more independent Europe, where they're not as reliant on us. At the same time, though, I think that and this goes with so much of what Trump is doing, where we have to do all these fixes, we have to do all these reforms, but, instead of doing it gradually, you're taking a sledgehammer. So it's sort of like DOGE, where you're like, we absolutely need to address all these inefficiencies and wasteful spending, but what you're doing is basically taking a sledgehammer and blowing the China shop, destroying everything. And so
right, yeah, which is a problem. It's going to have long-standing effects. So what's your take on DOGE?
What's my take on DOGE? Like I said, I agree in principle with what they're doing. But again, it's that sort of Silicon Valley mentality of break things and then figure it out later.
Which is cute when you got a fucking
but this is the government, and what we also have to remember,
and you can fail.
Yeah.
But you can't just go in the middle of something, like a middle of a program. So there's $500 million worth of food that's rotting in a port.
Yep.
And that's from U.S. farmers, right? And they just stopped it. It doesn't. It's not good business, and it creates further distrust in the United States around the world.
Well, not only that, we also have to remember again, if Congress appropriated it the president can't impound it. He can't just say, I'm not going to spend the money for this. I can't say I'm going to shut down this agency or this entity that's authorized by Congress. Now, we have the Senate, we have the House, and we need to negotiate the budget.
There you go, pass the budget.
Yeah, pass the budget.
I mean, we may not like it, but at least it's constitutional.
Yeah, go through the proper channels. I 100% agree. That's the other question. We're up on the nail biter again on the budgetary issue. So who knows if we're going to get a shutdown. I know Democrats are saying they want to shut down the government, but I don't even think they have the power to.
I mean, all they can do is just like not vote for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there is.
I mean, if we lose 2 Republicans, it's shut down. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, you have to run through a very, very thin minority or a very, very thin majority, or Mike Johnson has to hold his nose and go with the Democrats again.
They're not doing it, though.
They're not doing it. No,
absolutely not.
No, that I know for a fact. Yeah, they're not talking with Democrats.
We're not bailing you guys out, because that was actually the problem. And this is like the criticism I have of Democrats have gone along this path. And right now, there's a lot of people looking and going like, where are the Democrats? Where do you stop making these unconstitutional moves? And the answer is they have nothing to fucking say or do. They have no power. And because there was this belief in the system, in the institutions, and they're like, well, if we just play along, if we just do this, we can move things forward. But the fact of the matter is that they were not rewarded by voters for that.
Yeah.
And now we're in a constitutional crisis, frankly, because you have a president who's telegraphing right now, and a vice president and whatever the fuck Elon Musk is, saying that they're not going to abide by what the judges say. I mean, that was something that was really alarming today when it says, the president, doesn't break the laws if it's for the country.
Yeah, I
the
saw
country.
that.
That's extremely scary.
That was a very
because
quote, for sure.
that means that he's telegraphing, I'm going to disobey everything that the judges say, even though they're talking about the 3 co-equal branches and the checks and balances across our government. He believes he's righteous in this, and there's nothing the Democrats can do because they capitulated in the past, frankly. And so here we are. We're just watching the Trump and Elon show. That's all there is to it.
Trump and Elon show.
Right, the end of our democracy, the end of our government.
Our democracy is resilient. No, I think
our democracy is not resilient. Our democracy is now rated like 36th in the world in terms of being a flawed democracy. We do not have the guarantees that we had from public participation. In fact, we've increased over the barriers to participation over the last several years. We have, as many outsiders are describing, as an oligarchic takeover of our government, and really very little recourse.
Oligarchic corporations and people have been owning our government for decades anyway.
This is true. And actually, that's one of the reasons why we haven't had a high Democratic rating for a long time. So here we are.
I mean, I don't think it's as dire as you make it out. I don't think our democracy is going to be killed off of one administration.
I am not sure that even the 2026 elections are going to move forward without issues, let alone the 2028 elections.
I disagree with that. I don't see.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right too. I hope you're absolutely wrong, but I'm pretty sure I will be fine. But anyway, do not be afraid.
Famous last words.
Fear not. Fear not.
As we're driving, we're not even
Driving
about to hit the iceberg anymore. Like, we've hit the iceberg, and it's really it's a matter of how fast are we going down and who's going to be safe.
So before we end then, I actually, since we just went into the stark rabbit hole of the death of America, I want to end on a very positive note. I have to tell you the story about this wonderful person I discovered in Cape Coral by the name of the Flat Fairy. This is a 100% true story. Okay, this is a very weird thing that happened to me. So I bike everywhere. Sometimes if you see me around biking, that's me. Don't honk at me, please, because it distracts me, and please don't. But anyway, when I was biking home from a doctor's appointment over at Dr. Mel over in Cape Coral, wonderful chiropractor, my tire popped. And so I had to park it near up in Del Prado, and we went to go pick it up a few days later, and the tire was fixed. And I looked in my basket, and there's a note from someone that calls himself the Flat Fairy. And he said, the Flat Fairy strikes again. fix your tire, do a random act of kindness, someone to pay it back. And so I did. There was actually someone on the bus who needed $1 a few days later. I made sure to give it to them. So simple things like that. Well, I wanted to bring that up here first before I start posting it and getting the media on this mysterious flat ferry, because I reached out to a couple of my media contacts. This is a feel-good story. You're someone out there who saw my pop flat tire, was like, I'm just going to fix this for this guy. So whoever you are, Flat Ferry, you're a lifesaver. I did come and do that random act of kindness on your behalf, and just thank you for that. And I think that's a great way to end our little podcast program.
There's hope for humanity.
Hope for humanity. Whether or not we are a democracy in the future, there is hope for humanity.
Well, that's lovely. Well, thank you for that, Sean, and thank you everybody for tuning in, watching us with a Democrat and Republican walk into a bar, in an actual bar.
An actual bar, finally.
And thanks to Millennial Brewing for hosting us. And we do hope that you will come and join us. We get here a little bit early, so we're starting to film at 4 o'clock now.
Yep.
And we get here about 3:30, so we'd love to have you come and have a drink with us, come watch the show, and join in the conversation. We actually love the Peanut Gallery, and people are shouting and listening to us. It's a lot of fun, so we'd love to have you here. We are doing every other Sunday here at Millennial Brewery, so we will be back here in 2 weeks. So thank you for joining us, and thanks to Millennial. And if you enjoyed the show, we'd love to have you subscribe. So go ahead and go over to our website at bigmouthmediafl.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our shows, because that helps us out. And if you're listening wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Audible, any of those platforms, please go ahead and like and write a review, because that helps us reach more listeners. I have been your host, your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Vanier.
And I've been your Republican host, Sean Hartman.
And thanks for joining us here, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.